Winter Soldiers crossover. The theory that Super Troopers 3 secretly slips a Marvel cameo into a Vermont highway stop sounds insane until you trace where it came from. Back in 2018, when Broken Lizard first announced the sequel, the working title they floated was Super Troopers 3 Winter Soldiers, a pretty clear riff on Captain America the Winter Soldier. From there, it only got wilder. Director Jay Chandrasekhar and the rest of the troupe publicly joked about Chris Evans joining the cast, and their reasoning was almost too perfect. Evans had hung up the Captain America shield, and he had conveniently grown a mustache, which is basically the unofficial Super Troopers uniform. Separately, Chandrasekhar confirmed he actually met with Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige, who handed him a Marvel character encyclopedia and asked which properties he might want to tackle. Chandrasekhar has openly cited Deadpool as the kind of edgy, R-rated tone he and the troupe would love to bring to Marvel, even floating the animation space as a possibility. So the theory argues those breadcrumbs were never just press tour banter, and that a mustachioed Evans, or some other Marvel face, turns up in a blink-and-you'll-miss-it gag. Now, the official release dropped the Winter Soldiers subtitle, and the film ships as plain Super Troopers 3 through Searchlight on the 7th of August, 2026. But fans argue the troupe wouldn't keep dangling this if there was nothing there. It's the rare theory with a real paper trail, sitting right at the intersection of two of the biggest fan bases in movies, which is exactly why it's the one everyone keeps sharing. Johnny Chimpo returns. The new drug ring at the center of the plot might not be new at all. The official synopsis says the troopers crack a pernicious new drug ring while Farva's wedding melts down around them, and that single word, new, is what theorists keep circling. In the original 2001 film, the smuggling operation was marked by stickers of a cartoon monkey named Johnny Chimpo, a deliberately raunchy parody of badly dubbed anime. That same monkey was tattooed on the back of a murdered woman, which is what tied the drugs to the larger conspiracy and the corrupt Spurbury police. The theory claims the third film's ring is the surviving arm of that same cartel, finally tracked down across decades, with a Johnny Chimpo callback hidden somewhere in the case. Supporters point to the fact that Johnny Chimpo merchandise, including snapback hats, has quietly reappeared in the film's marketing, reading it as a deliberate tease rather than a nostalgia cash-in. Now, current reporting suggests the case is actually standalone, so this one lives firmly in fan territory. But Johnny Chimpo is the deepest cut callback the franchise has, and tying the new case back to him would reward the fans who've watched the original 100 times. O'Hagan's last ride. Brian Cox is back as Captain O'Hagan, but a new captain in the cast list suggests this could be his goodbye. Cox returns as Captain John O'Hagan, the gruff boss he's played since the original film, and on paper, that's just a fun reunion. The wrinkle is that Oscar winner Nat Faxon joins as Captain Todd Markowski, a second captain figure who appears to be in a leadership position over the squad in the trailer. The theory reads this as a handoff, with O'Hagan retiring or being written toward an exit, while Markowski steps in as the new authority figure. Fans cite a real-world reason too, since Cox is in his late 70s, which makes a graceful send-off more likely than building future films around him. Some versions of the theory go a lot darker and predict O'Hagan doesn't survive the movie at all, given how willing this franchise has always been to put its characters through absolute chaos. Two captains in one Super Troopers movie is genuinely unusual, so it's no surprise people are reading Succession into it. There's something a little bittersweet in the idea, the notion that even a comedy franchise eventually has to age out its veterans. Thorny's long con. Thorny spends the whole movie trying to torpedo Farva's wedding, and the theory says that sabotage is the setup for the biggest character payoff in the series. The plot hinges on Farva's wildly over-the-top Indian engagement to Thorny's sister, played by Hannah Simone, with Thorny scheming the entire time to break up the relationship. For 3 films now, Thorny, played by director Jay Chandrasekhar, has been the steady straight man, the one reluctantly babysitting Farva's chaos. The theory argues his sabotage is a long con that flips in the third act, the moment he realizes Farva genuinely loves his sister and switches to protecting the wedding instead of wrecking it. Supporters point to the synopsis line about saving maybe the wedding itself, reading it as a quiet tell that Thorny ends up on the wedding side after all. That would resolve the oldest relationship in the whole franchise, the prickly Thorny and Farva dynamic, on a note of grudging family loyalty, the kind of payoff fans have wanted since the first movie. By the way, if you're enjoying this so far, I make videos like this all the time, and a subscribe would genuinely help the channel out. Thanks. Buchanan the Villain. Chase Crawford is playing a charming new face named Baker Buchanan, and fans are convinced the charm is the disguise. Crawford, best known these days for playing a smiling sociopath in The Boys era of his career, shows up here as a clean-cut newcomer named Baker Buchanan. The theory predicts Buchanan is secretly tied to the drug ring, using that polished, friendly image as cover, which mirrors exactly how the original hid its real villains inside law enforcement. Supporters note that Crawford's recent typecasting as charismatic bad guys makes a genuine straight arrow pretty unlikely. The original's big twist was that the cops themselves were dirty, so fans are primed to suspect any spotless newcomer of being the real threat. The new Rabbit. Every Super Troopers movie needs a rookie to torture, and the theory says they've finally drafted Rabbit's replacement. Andrew Dismukes, a Saturday Night Live cast member, joins the squad as a rookie trooper named Coy Burns. In the trailer, he appears to be the new target of the squad's pranks, the same role Eric Stolhansky's Rabbit filled as the green recruit in the original film. The theory argues Burns is a deliberate Rabbit stand-in, since Rabbit himself is now a veteran, and the hazing cycle needs a fresh victim to keep the formula alive. Fans read this as the franchise quietly setting up a younger generation, with Burns potentially carrying future films if the originals eventually age out. Some go further and predict Burns earns his stripes by the finale, exactly the way Rabbit did, completing the rookie-to-trooper arc as a structural callback to the very first movie. The rookie role is a load-bearing piece of the Super Troopers formula, so casting a young comic in it reads to a lot of people like a generational baton pass quietly happening in plain sight. Broken Lizard Universe. The wildest theory of all says Super Troopers 3 quietly confirms that every Broken Lizard movie shares one universe. Broken Lizard is the five-man troupe of Jay Chandrasekhar, Kevin Heffernan, Steve Lemmy, Paul Soter, and Eric Stolhansky, and together they wrote and starred in Super Troopers, Club Dread, Beer Fest, and The Slammin' Salmon. Fans have pitched a shared universe crossover for years, and the troupe has openly entertained the idea in interviews. The most cited example is Steve Lemmy's Mac from Super Troopers meeting Finkelstein, the lab scientist from Beer Fest, with the actors riffing on how those two characters would bounce off each other. The theory claims the third film plants a confirming Easter egg somewhere, a Beer Fest German beer reference, a Slammin' Salmon menu, or a Club Dread location, something that locks the shared universe into canon for good. Here's the crucial part though. The troupe has explicitly said there are no concrete crossover plans, and that the whole idea came from fans, not from any planned arc. So this prediction is pure speculation. What keeps it alive is the troupe's long history of stuffing dense background gags into every frame, which gives fans real reason to expect at least a buried nod, even if a full-blown crossover never actually happens. Shared universe theories are catnip for modern audiences, and Broken Lizard is one of the few comedy groups with a deep enough catalog to even make it plausible. It's the kind of theory that rewards the fans who followed the troupe across all four of their movies, hunting every frame for a connection. The Electric Cruiser. The trailer's first big gag is the troopers getting an electric patrol car, and fans think it's doing more work than a joke. The trailer opens with a high-speed chase, then pivots to reveal the squad's new electric patrol cruiser, which is met with immediate comedic hostility. The theory reads that electric car as a running thread about a department being modernized and squeezed, echoing the original's whole "we might get shut down" stakes. Supporters even predict the cruiser becomes a plot device, dying at the worst possible moment right in the middle of the drug ring chase. The original was built on a budget-strapped department fighting for relevance, so the electric car looks like the third film updating that exact anxiety for the present day. Wedding as cover. Two plots, a wedding and a drug bust, are running at once, and the theory says they're secretly the same plot. The synopsis splits the film between Farva's chaotic engagement and the hunt for a new drug ring, treating them like separate threads. The theory argues the wedding is actually a Trojan horse, that the ceremony, the guests, or the venue are connected to the smuggling operation. so cracking the case and saving the wedding turn out to be the exact same thing. Supporters note the synopsis ties the two threads together in a single sentence about saving the day and maybe the wedding itself, reading that as a structural hint that they converge. A common version of the theory predicts a guest or a wedding vendor is secretly a courier for the ring, letting the troopers stumble into the bust through Farva's nuptials. That would mirror the original structure, where a routine highway job spiraled into the entire central conspiracy. Comedy plots that look unrelated and then violently collide are a Broken Lizard signature, so fans fully expect the wedding and the bust to crash into each other by the finale. Ursula comes back. Marissa Coughlan is back as Ursula, and fans want to know where that leaves Foster and the rest of the old crew's love lives. Coughlan returns as Ursula Hanson, the Spurbury officer and Foster's love interest from the original film, which immediately got people talking. The theory predicts the third film uses her return to resolve the lingering romance threads, pairing off the veterans now that Farva, of all people, is the one getting married. Supporters read her comeback as a sign the film is closing personal loops, not just chasing gags. Bringing back a love interest from more than 20 years earlier signals a film that wants to give longtime fans real closure, which is exactly what theorists are reading into it. The Cobra Smugglers. Yes, there are cobras in the trailer, and the theory says they're not just a sight gag. Trailer coverage notes the troopers fighting off actual cobras, right alongside the drug dealers and the wedding chaos. The theory connects those snakes to the franchise's history of weird smuggling vehicles, like the original's monkey-branded marijuana, and predicts the cobras are how the new ring moves its product. Supporters argue Broken Lizard never includes an animal gag without eventually tying it to the plot. The original turned a cartoon monkey into a plot-critical clue, so fans expect the cobras to be more than a throwaway, following the franchise's habit of weaponizing its strangest images. The time jump. There's a real gap of more than 2 decades between the original and this sequel, and the theory says the movie addresses it head-on. The original Super Troopers premiered at Sundance in January of 2001 and reached theaters in February of 2002, while Super Troopers 2 arrived in 2018. The third film lands in August of 2026, which means roughly a quarter century has passed since audiences first met these troopers. The theory predicts the film leans hard into that time jump, framing the squad as aging veterans confronting modern policing, the electric car, the new captains, and a younger rookie all at once. Supporters tie this to the framing that Broken Lizard took more than 20 years to make it, reading that long, real-world gap as in-universe aging the film will happily joke about. They point to the dual-captain casting and the new rookie as evidence the movie is consciously about a generational shift. A comedy sequel arriving this long after its predecessor almost has to acknowledge the passage of time, and fans expect Broken Lizard to mine it for both jokes and a surprising little bit of heart. Farva the Hero. The most satisfying theory of all is that Farva, the loudest, dumbest, most insufferable trooper in the entire squad, finally becomes the hero. Rodney Farva, played by Kevin Heffernan, has been the franchise's punching bag across all 3 films. The screw-up, the bully, the punchline behind the leader of Cola Rant, and the whole Meow game era of jokes. The third film puts Farva at the absolute center of the story for the first time, with his over-the-top engagement to Thorny's sister driving the entire plot. The theory argues this is a deliberate redemption arc, where the wedding forces Farva to finally grow up, and the drug ring climax lets him be the one who saves the day. Supporters point to the synopsis framing the troopers as trying to save the day, and maybe the wedding itself, reading Farva as the genuine emotional core rather than just the comic relief. A common version predicts Farva and Thorny end the film as actual family, turning their series-long antagonism into real brotherhood through the marriage. This franchise has always hidden a surprising amount of sweetness under all the raunch, so a Farva-centric finale would be the natural capstone to the whole trilogy. Putting the most hated character in the series at the heart of the story is a genuinely bold swing, and fans are reading it as the setup for the most emotionally satisfying ending the series could possibly deliver. It's the kind of payoff people will be talking about after the credits roll. If this was worth your time, consider subscribing so you don't miss any future uploads. Thanks for watching.